anglers, Lisa here again with the IGFA, and today I am joined by Joanna, Kai, and Gabriel. So Kai and Gabriel are our volunteer fishing experts for the day because they have been with us for so many years. They are our volunteers and we are so thankful that they can come out fishing with us today. Yes, it's a Monday. No, they're not in school because it is a school closure day. So fishing is a great physical activity to do on school closure days or after school or on the weekends, or if you're really lucky, some schools have fishing built into their curriculum. That is awesome. So today we are going to fish here at beautiful Tropical Park in Miami. So stay tuned and we'll see what we can catch today. While we go fishing, we are exposed to the sun, which can only be seen during the daytime. And well, us here in Florida, we're exposed to the sun a lot more than other parts of the world. It is the Sunshine State. The sun does have a lot of benefits to your health, like getting the necessary vitamin D. However, if you're exposed to too much of the sun's harmful rays to the point where your skin gets burnt, that's not good. So we need to make sure we are wearing our sunscreen, protective gear like a hat, sunglasses, or fish where there's a lot of shade. And there are so many benefits of getting outside. You get fresh air, you get moving, get your muscles working, including your most important muscle of all, the heart. Fishing on a regular basis helps keep your heart healthy and your body physically fit.
So today we're using a Spincast reel. Now, some of the big differences between a Spincast reel and a spinning reel is in a spinning reel, you actually see the spool of line, while a Spincast reel, there's a little cap that kind of closes it in. Now, these reels are really great for beginners. They're a lot easier to use, they're simpler to use, and they're actually less likely to get a tangle than a spinning reel. Now, some of the cons of this reel, though, is if you do actually get a tangle inside, it is a little harder to fix, but it's very unlikely to get a tangle, so that's a good thing. If you properly use this reel, you can catch yourself some pretty big fish.
Today, we may be using a bobber for fishing. The bobber helps us keep our bait suspended at a certain depth so that it may not hit the bottom of your fishing spot. The bobber can also tell you when you have a fish on the line. If a fish starts to tug at your hook and your bait, then the bobber will move up and down in the water. If the bobber stays still, most likely you've either lost your bait or there are just no fish biting on your line. Here, I'm going to be attaching one of the bobbers onto our line. I'm going to give a lot of space between because this is a fairly deep lake. I'm going to slide that on and now it should be in place. Notice how we have a lot of space from here to where our hook should be. That will give us enough space to keep our bait suspended in the water above the bottom of the lake.
Weights can come in all shapes and sizes and can be made of all different types of materials. Today, we're going to be using split shot weights or small lead weights that you crimp onto your line with pliers. Weights can both extend casting distance and they can keep your bait down in the water column. Here we have our split shot. To attach it to our line, first slide the weight over the line, then grab your pliers and pinch down on the weight. Now your weight should be on your line and shouldn't move.
So today we're going to be using a size 2 hook. So here we have a size 2 circle hook, while up here we have a size 2 hook as well, also a circle hook, but this one is an offset circle hook. My one in the bottom here, this is an inline hook, meaning that the hook, whole barb and everything is in line, it's in a straight line. The offset hook is slightly tilted. Now, the reason you want to use an inline circle hook is these guys are very, very, very likely to get caught in the corner of the fish's mouth, which makes it really easy to release. It's a lot healthier for the fish. The offset circle hook, it's more likely to actually get swallowed by the fish. So we're gonna avoid using those because we wanna release our fish as safely as possible. So we definitely wanna have the inline circle hooks today.
When you go fishing, you often bring a tackle box with you. So today we have our tackle box filled with bobbers, weights, and our hooks. We also have other utensils like our de-hooking tool, our pliers, our cutters, things like that. But when you go fishing, you want to make sure you have a balanced rig. So we just learned about bobbers, weights, and hooks. So when you rig up your rod and reel, you want to make sure everything is balanced. So here is an example of a balanced rig. I have my circle hook, I have my weight, and I have about a 1-inch bobber. So for example, you do not want to rig your rod up like this. Okay, the one wrong thing about this is our bobber. Okay, so I use the same size circle hook, I use the same size weight, but this is about a 2 or 3-inch bobber. That's pretty huge and too much for what I am fishing for today. On this rig, this is also incorrect because I have a very, very tiny bobber, a bigger weight, and a really big circle hook. Okay, this is way too huge. Probably about a 3/0, 4/0 circle hook. Too big for anything that I could catch in this lake today. Okay, so this is not a balanced rig right here. If I were to cast this out, the bobber would already go under the water because the weight and the hook are too heavy and they'll drag it under the water, making me think I have a fish, but I don't. So whenever you go fishing, wherever you go fishing, just make sure your rig is balanced. Everything is working properly so that it can show you when you have a fish on and when you should start reeling in that line.
Today, we're going to use the improved clinch knot to tie our hooks on. Now, the improved clinch knot is one step stronger than the clinch knot, which sometimes might slip on you if you don't do the right amount of twists. So how we're going to do this knot is you're going to take your tag end and your hook, and you're going to put the line through the eye of the hook, and now you're going to take your hook and you're going to twist it 5 to 7 times. Make sure they're full twists. You don't want to do a half a twist. Once you've done that, this loop that's close to the hook, we're going to take our tag end and push it through that little loop. Now, if I were to pull this tight, that's the clinch knot. But like I said, sometimes the clinch knot will slip on you. So we're going to do the improved clinch knot, which basically, you're going to take your tag end, and now we have this secondary loop, and we're going to place our tag end through that loop, and then we just pull everything tight. And of course, our tag end right here, we need to cut that. Remember, fish do not like tag ends. They can get tangled, they can get poked in the fish's eye, so we need to remove it and make sure that your extra fishing line gets disposed of properly, recycled properly.
Worms are one of the baits that we'll be using today. Worms are great for catching a variety of fish. Many fish eat worms naturally, so using worms is probably one of our best options. When using worms, most likely you'll find them in these types of containers. It is important that you store your containers in shaded areas and most likely upside down, so that way when you come back for your container, your worms aren't dried out and it's a lot easier to get to your worms. Now, to hook on a worm, make sure that you hook it on at least more than once. Twice or 3 times is preferred. This is because when you're hooking on a worm, the worm can either squirm off the hook, or a predator, like the fish you're trying to catch, can easily tug it off. Putting it on twice or 3 times is an easy way to make sure that your worm does not fall off the hook. Also, don't be afraid to get a little bit of dirt on your hands. And that's how you hook a worm. You want the two ends of your worm wiggling, because this movement is natural for a worm and it's most likely going to attract your fish.
This is a Spincast Rod. To use it, make sure the reel is facing up and the bail is facing your body. First, move your rod to the back while following the rod tip with your eyes. Make sure that nobody passing by can get hooked by your rod and reel. First, put your thumb on the bail and look at the end of your rod. Second, you want to bring your rod forward. And third, release the bail to launch your lure into the water. All in one motion, it looks like this. If you don't press and hold your bail, your line is going to look something like this. So, in order to cast properly, make sure that you keep your thumb on the bail until you let go and launch your lure in the water.
After you make your cast, now what? You wait. Sometimes fishing is slow and you have to wait a while, or sometimes the fish start biting right away. Patience though, fishing requires patience. So as Kai, Gabriel, and Joanna fish, trying to catch our first fish here at Tropical Park, let's go through a little bit more about the park. It is a freshwater ecosystem. It's down in Miami, Florida, so there are a lot of major highways here, but it's a nice hidden gem. There's a few different lakes. We chose this lake because it is deeper and there's a lot more vegetation. The other lakes were shallower and there wasn't a lot of aquatic vegetation, okay? Here we have plants sticking up out of the water, we have plants in the water, good cover for fish. Also, because we're here in Florida, we do have some alligators, okay? So as we fish, we are going to keep an eye out. Be safe out here. Behind me, you can also see a fishing line tube. This is where we are going to put our extra fishing line, our old fishing line. We're not going to throw it on the ground. We never throw our fishing line on the ground because critters, even like our alligators, they can become entangled in that fishing line, causing them all sorts of harm. So what fish could we catch here at Tropical Park? Well, we can catch a lot of different species on a spin cast with worm as our bait. The main target species that we're going after are panfish, okay? So like our bluegills, spotted sunfish, but can you catch a largemouth bass or a peacock bass or a larger fish on a spin cast rod and reel using a worm and a circle hook? Yes, you can. But how do you know what fish is which? Well, you start somewhere, okay? Using an ID book or your regulations is a good place to start. Start with one fish or two fish, okay? And then you can build your repertoire. The more fish you catch and the more characteristics you pay attention to, then you start identifying more of your fish. So a good native fish that we can catch today is the bluegill. And if you notice, bluegill have these vertical bars going down their body. Okay, they're kind of like an olive green color, maybe a little brown or dark blue or purple mixed in there. You don't always want to go by the color, okay? But bluegills tend to have blue on their operculum right here and this black ear flap, also called the opercle. Okay, so that's your bluegill. But there is a chance that we could catch a non-native species called the Mayan cichlid. Now, the Mayan cichlid is a little similar to the bluegill because it has those vertical bars on it. However, it's more of an orangish or a reddish color. Another characteristic of the Mayan cichlid is this spot right here, okay, closer to the tail. That's different than a bluegill. A bluegill doesn't have that, okay? So that's the difference between those. Another non-native species is the spotted tilapia. There is a chance we could catch spotted tilapia here, but notice it does not have the bars like the Mayan cichlid. Those are more kind of large spots going down its body, but different than a bluegill, okay? It's a similar color to the bluegill, but the bluegill will not have those big black spots or blotches almost going down its body. So start small and then keep building on your fish ID, and then you'll get better and better. And if you don't know what a fish is, release it, okay? Just release it. When in doubt, release it until you can properly identify that fish. After you make your cast, hold on to the rod, wait for it. If you're using a bobber, let the fish take it. Let the fish take it under the water for a few seconds. With circle hooks, don't set the hook by yanking it back. Let the fish take it, keep tension on the line, and reel in.
So I got myself a bluegill. Now, one of the ways that I know it's a bluegill is one, well, he's kind of flat, so he looks like a panfish. There's another name that you can call a bluegill, is a panfish. But when you look at his colorations, they're usually a greenish and olive green coloration. They do have black bars that go down their body, but unlike Mayan cichlids, they don't have a false eye near the base of the tail. They do have a dark spot on the end of their dorsal fin, and when they get older, they'll actually have blue gills, thus the name. And you'll also see this little kind of black ear. So this guy, beautiful little fish, we're gonna let him go now. If you don't by chance have a dehooking tool, an easy way of releasing this fish, one, wet your hands. So I already wet my hands. But what you're gonna do is go around the fish and push down his dorsal spine. That's where my thumb is right now. Let me unhook this guy. Because of circle hook, remember, get caught right in the mouth. And now, I'm gonna gently toss this guy back into the water. Bye, fish.
This right here is a small example of a Mayan cichlid. Mayan cichlid are invasive species native to South America. They grow to be 1 or 2 pounds, and they usually have this type of coloration of bars with a spot on their tail. The spot on their tail mimics an eye, so predators attack their tail instead of the top of their head. Mayan cichlid have small, sharp teeth and spines on their dorsal and pectoral fins, which is why today we'll be using a dehooker to release this fish.
Wait, let me go on the other side.
Oops.
That's okay. Well, sometimes they dehook themselves. All living things are here on Earth as long as their basic needs are met. Food, temperature, shelter, habitat, is everything they're good in order for that species to survive. So a lot of these fish species are considered invasive to Florida. So not only are they not native, but they're also invasive, meaning they outcompete some of our native fish species. They outcompete food, they're maybe a bit more aggressive and take over the habitat. So they're out competing some of our native fish. You can't transport non-native fish from lake to lake to lake because you're just contributing to the problem. So that's how species can become not native, and then how they can become invasive when they're taking over our native populations of fish. Ah, new species. Okay, what do we have?
Here we have a spotted tilapia. These are very common among Florida waters.
So Gabriel just caught this nice spotted tilapia, okay? Again, not native to Florida. They do have some spines, and the spines all point backwards, okay? So if you take your hands and kind of like a circle, you can push the top and the bottom down, okay? You want to handle this fish as least as possible. Now, spotted tilapia are more of like an olive color like our bluegill, but they do have black blotches going down their body, black spots, okay? Very good placement with that circle hook, getting it into the side of the mouth, and then we're just going to gently toss this fish back in the water, okay? Good spotted tilapia. That was a nice fish.
Alright guys, so right here we have another spotted tilapia. A little bit of a small one. We're not keeping anything today, so we're going to dehook it and let it go. And even if there's some vegetation, guys, they'll find their way out. Guys, remember, when you go fishing, remember to leave the place cleaner than when you got there. And this, guys, isn't good for the environment at all.
So when you cast, sometimes you don't want to cast right in the middle of the lake because there's not many fish there. Sometimes when you cast, you want to bring it by the vegetation because that's where the fish will be hiding. You can just bring your bobber in, reel it in, and bring it very close to where you see vegetation or where you see a drop in the water. Sometimes when you wear polarized sunglasses, you can see better. But there will be a lot more fish kind of tucked up here under the vegetation because it's getting hot and sunny right now. So they want shade as well, versus going right into the middle of the lake. If you do make a cast in the middle of the lake, you want to put your bobber up really high so your bait goes down very deep because the fish will go deeper into the water as it gets sunnier, okay? So they want some shade and some cooler water as well. Woohoo! Miss Lisa caught one too! Yay! Another bluegill. Okay, I'm going to watch those spines. Take it down, get it on the sides. Okay. Take my hook out. Gently release them back into the water. Still have my worm. Let's try to catch another one. Yay!
When you're done fishing, don't forget to put your hook on the bridge of the rod to make sure it doesn't swing and accidentally hook anybody or anything. So, all you have to do is put your hook on the bridge of one of the eyes and reel until your line is tight and the hook stays. Just like this.
Thank you so much, anglers, for watching our virtual field trip here at Tropical Park in Miami, Florida. We learned how to use a Spincast rod and reel and how to catch a fish on live worms. Every single one of us caught a fish today, so that's a great outing while we're fishing. Keep watching our videos. Next month, we'll take you to a new location and try to catch new fish. So stay tuned.